So there's so many things we need to do in education. Number one, we have to pay teachers more. And the data clearly shows good teacher worth his or her weight in gold and better educational outcomes. Number two, you need more teachers because data also shows having 30, 40 kids per teacher is not great. Number three, we need to lighten up on standardized tests and let teachers actually teach the kids the way that the kids learning. You know, we invented the SAT during World War II to figure out which kids not to send to the front lines. That's really dark. And now we're treating every year like wartime and bludgeoning our kids with these tests. And it's perverting and distorting our teachers' incentives and behaviors. Number four, we need to invest in vocational apprenticeship and technical education because right now we're overemphasizing college, and college is not the right fit for a lot of kids. Number five, we should be emphasizing things that actually make your life better and don't pretend you're all on an assembly line to college. So that's social and emotional learning, financial literacy, the arts, managing technology, which is like an increasing part of life today, and things that the kids would actually get excited about. They can't just look up on their smartphone. And the last thing, I know this is long-winded, is that 2/3 of our kids' outcomes are determined outside of school. That's stress levels in the house, parental time, words read to the child, type of neighborhood.
So what happens when you have somebody that you believe is smart, you believe is trying, seems to be good at lots of things that aren't on the agenda? Now you've got a problem because that person is invalidating the educational system. So the system gets angry at you. It tries, but there's a very limited help budget that's available. And before too long, what you're doing is you're revealing what I call teaching disabilities, because people don't have the time, the energy, the understanding necessary to help and reach that person. They don't even know what's going wrong. And so what you're doing is that you're invalidating what I would call the educational complex. And the educational complex is it's a guild, it's a profession, it's a business. And so one of the things I believe is that we're not taught subjects that in a way that maximally benefits the largest number of learners. We're taught subjects due to the political economy of making these subjects take a very long time and rewarding the specialty that might have been the career choice of the person teaching it.
That's super fucking interesting. So what teaching method would optimize for the greatest number of learners?
Well, first of all, differential diagnosis. Like,
What does that mean?
Are you a visual learner or are you an auditory learner?
And we now segment them out.
Right. And, you start to understand, you present several different styles. Let's do some A/B testing. It's like you go to your optometrist. Is it better like this or like this? Right. And so you start to understand somebody's learning style and learning profile.
Okay. Keep going. That's really fucking simple and wonderfully interesting. Hard to execute. People can stop with a hate mail, but
no,
like
not hard to execute.
Okay, even better. I was being very preemptive.
So we're getting increasingly frustrated with our schools because we're like, hey, what's wrong? Can't you teach our kids? And then the teachers all know it's like, I can control about 35% of your kids' outcome, and then 65% happens way before I even get there. And so if we want to actually give our kids a chance to learn, you would put money into the homes and in the hands of families and parents, and then create an environment at home where the kid actually has a fighting chance to learn. And then when they show up to school, they have a real chance to teach them.
So how many people are we going to throw in the dummy pile?
We have to stop treating our schools like assembly lines, one size fits all. And essentially right now they're as much behavior modification as they are education, you know what I mean? And part of that is that you have student-to-teacher ratios of 30-1. And so if you're a teacher in front of a bunch of kids, you don't have time or energy or bandwidth.
The parents who are going to take their kid and they're going to say, where is your algebra homework? You forgot it at school again? You tore in a ripped piece of paper? Did you not read the directions? Where are your notes? My view is that my PhD belongs to every learning disabled family in the country, because so far as I'm concerned, the difficulty of getting through the system and surviving it is that you're constantly causing a problem for every educator. And so I am compassionate with the problem right up to a particular point. And that is the point where you say, you know what, I don't have time for this shit. And I'm sorry, but you're getting a C. And something in me knows that I'm doing you wrong, but I'm not allowed to do you right. I can't figure out why I'm allowed to give you an A in this class because you turned in some other project that I was not expecting. Because you showed brilliance. You showed something else. And somehow, because of my needs for my job, I have to give you and your family the bad news that you're taking it for the team. And so my righteous indignation is intended to start a blaze. If there was one thing I would love to do, is to liberate the families that are going through this nightmare of looking at their kids and saying, wow, you're not getting it. Don't worry, there'll be something in life for you. Like, why are you giving up on your kids? If those kids are smart, it's like this race and IQ thing. I cannot stand this race and IQ thing. I understand the idea that IQ is somewhat predictive. I understand that you can correlate it with various things. IQ is such a crude measure of all of the things that we really deeply care about. This is an epidemic mischaracterization of a giant portion of the population from whom you will get vaccines and new industries. These are the people who will write your scripts that you'll be riveted, must-see TV from the future. And right now what you're telling them is that they're a bunch of morons. I don't see the learning disabled students wanting to extinguish neurotypicals. I see the neurotypicals
Neurotypicals
freaked out of their minds that the kid who they think should be, in the dummy pile might have some super talents. And if you think about a lot of the energy in Silicon Valley, a friend of mine said something which I thought was very wise. And she said, if only we could harness the energy of the billionaires who aren't still trying to prove to their middle school cafeteria table that they belong with the cool kids. We can lie about us all being the same, or we can recognize that our gifts lie in different places.
And even when you drop your kid off in school, you can actually immediately pick up on whether it's a kind of teacher that's putting heart and soul into each and every kid. And then you feel super grateful. You feel like you're completely fine leaving your kid there. Or sometimes you drop your kid off and you feel like the teacher's priority is just to keep the kids breathing. and that's about it. And like whether or not they actually get that sort of nurturing. So the question is, how do you legislate that kind of atmosphere in the classroom? I think a lot of it is easing up on the testing and the assembly line nature of our schools, because right now there's this top-down orientation. And if you're a teacher, you feel like, well, how am I going to get evaluated? How do kids test at like a certain point in the year? And then anything that gets between you and your kids having a certain level of test result, then you see as like a barrier to your doing your job. Whereas a lot of times doing your job might be just sitting down individually with a kid and trying to meet them where they are or teach them in a way that's actually impactful for them, which might not be like a top-down approach.
Hablo, I talk. Tú hablas, you talk, él habla. Somebody translate. Summers, sit up and take off those glasses.
I have a headache.
Then you can wear them in detention after school while you write out this conjugation 100 times.